evening, everyone. This is the Committee of Precinct Chairs meeting for April 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Coming to you from the Town Hall, Great Hall Meeting Room at 26 Court Street. We have members in attendance within the room. We also have members and presenters in attendance via the Zoom hybrid platform that we use here for the Committee of Precinct Chairs. First, I'd like to run through the roll call to make sure we have a quorum. So we'll start, as always, with Precinct 1.
Christine Pratt, Precinct 1.
Precinct 2 is myself, Matt Tavares. Precinct 3.
Precinct 3, Dale Weber. Precinct 3, where it all began.
Thought you were going to forget it for a second. Precinct 4.
Charlie Vautrin, Vice Chair, Precinct 4.
Precinct 5.
Precinct 5, Mike Leary.
Precinct 6. Absent.
Brooks, I'm Paul McGee. I'm the Vice Chair of Precinct 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. You're online. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Precinct 7.
Good evening, guys. Jackie Perkins, Precinct 7 Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Precinct 8.
Precinct 8, Don Williams, Vice Chair.
Precinct 9.
Precinct 9, Catherine Holmes.
Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, Alan Costello.
Precinct 11.
Precinct 11, Frank O'Brien.
Precinct 12.
Precinct 12, Pat Adelman.
Precinct 13.
Precinct 13, Ron Riley.
Precinct 14.
Precinct 14, Tom Begley.
Precinct 15 is absent this evening, notified me a little while ago. Precinct 16.
Precinct 16,
Precinct 17.
Joe Hutchinson, Precinct 17.
You flipped sides on me there, Joe. All right. Precinct 18.
Precinct 18, Carmen Lefrieri, in the middle of it all.
Okay, thank you all very much. We're going to start, as always, if you'll stand with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. PAC TV, or excuse me, the local scene, as it's now known, has asked me to remind members in the room, if you're not speaking, to turn off your microphone due to some sound pickup within the room, and then those online on Zoom, please mute yourself. And if you are about to speak or would like to speak, use the hand raise feature, or I guess raise two hands and wave, and I'll catch you in the video. First item on the agenda this evening, as we always do on the COPC meeting after town meeting, is to kind of have a town meeting recap or a review, the good, the bad, the ugly, we kind of call it. I just want to begin by saying that the COPC members seated here and then on Zoom, I did notice some great questions leading up to town meeting. I think that you also brought all those back to your precincts, and that led to great questions and pointed questions on town meeting floor, and that town meeting, I think, was well informed, hopefully, this past town meeting, and I think we've gotten progressively better at that over the last 3 or 4 years, and I think that has to do a lot with the work that you all put in here and then bring back to your precincts for your caucuses. I'd also like to thank the Finance and Advisory Committee for their work in leading up to town meeting and going through all the articles. I know I watched a number of their meetings myself, and they also asked a lot of the tough questions, so we didn't have to at times. And then, of course, I'd like to thank the assistant moderator leading me to the town moderator, Mr. Trifletti, who is joining us online. And normally when we open this up, Mr. Trifletti, before we start kind of having our comments, I'd like your comments and review of town meeting, please.
Thank you, Chair Tavares.
Recording in progress.
Members of the Committee of Precinct Chairs, I'm delighted to be here. The timing is great. After every town meeting, I get together with some members of the staff, PAC TV, and some elected officials in order to do a recap and to hear from people who worked with me on the planning and preparation of town meeting as to what can we do to improve going forward in future town meetings. And we had that meeting yesterday, and I've got a list of some of the things that were suggested in no particular order, but as we went around the room, different people had different proposals. So the first one, of course, is going to be, again, a plea to town meeting members not to be drafting bylaws on town meeting floor. And so with respect to the bylaw proposal regarding precinct caucuses and public comment, even though I received some in advance of town meeting, and I'm thankful for that, I still received some on town meeting floor. And so that's a challenge. And I deviated from my usual position, which is instead of refusing to accept it, if it's an easy change, such as a motion to move from 2 minutes to 3 minutes public comment, that's something I can accept. But generally speaking, just want to encourage town meeting members to be aware that in the future, when we have bylaw proposals, and we'll have them, that there's going to be a cutoff, and we're just not able to do it. It's too confusing. There were a lot of concerns expressed from town meeting members about the fact that some of these changes that they were receiving at town meeting. So that's number one. Number two, emails among town meeting members. So the assistant moderator and I want to be able to communicate to all town meeting members about certain things that town meeting members need to know in connection with the town meeting. And so it was disappointing when after the town meeting that some town meeting members were using the same distribution list that we provide and the town clerk provides. In fact, one town meeting member at the end said, "Take me off the list," because that town meeting member didn't want to receive any more of the emails that were going back and forth among town meeting members. Well, clearly, we want all town meeting members to be on our list if we're providing you with important information about procedure and protocol for town meeting. So the town clerk and the assistant moderator and I are going to be now sending emails with a blind CC so that you only get to see your address and no one else's. And it's unfortunate, but we feel that we don't want that distribution list abused, and we want to make sure that when people do get it, that they'll read what we sent to them because it's important information. Town clerk also noted that it's arguable that the discussion that went on afterwards that was substantive and not procedural was in violation of our charter and the open meeting law. However, the problem with that is that if somebody brought a complaint to the Attorney General, the Attorney General probably wouldn't do anything about it because it's not enforceable because town meeting members are exempt from the open meeting law. So it's kind of a conundrum in Plymouth because, do you comply with the charter or ignore it? And it's not too different from the charter saying that we have a conflict of interest provision for town meeting members, but again, that's not enforceable. A reminder to all town meeting members, and some of this information, if you could all bring it back to your caucuses, we'd appreciate it. It's very important to remember that even though we have the hybrid format, it's not to be used just because you don't want to show up. One town meeting member said, "Well, I want to use it because it's more convenient. I have too many books and I can't spread out easily in the Center for Performing Arts, and it's easier to do it at home." Well, that's not a good reason to not be there. And the reason we say that we want you in person is because we cannot guarantee that you're going to have connection if you're remote. And so there were a number of people who were remote, as you may recall, and we had connection problems. And one person, we told them, go and be close to your router, and the person said, oh, well, my router's in the basement. And so the problem with that is they want to be remote, but they can't really set themselves up in a way that's going to facilitate their connection. So we wanted to mention that. The number of caucuses. There was a concern that in at least one case, there were 3 precinct caucuses for a precinct the month before town meeting. And the presenters are concerned that they simply cannot attend all the caucuses, particularly when there are multiple caucuses for the same precinct, where we already have 18. So anything that can be done, somebody else said it was disappointing. They went to one caucus where there were 3 precincts there, which would be 27, and 8 people showed up. So they were disappointed in the lack of town meeting participation for caucuses that were scheduled. I will continue to request that there be no caucuses scheduled when on the date of the town meeting preview. And the reason I request that is we get that date and time out to you well in advance. And there's very important information that I provide at the town meeting preview because it's held the day after I have my motions meeting. And so I'm able to help all of you navigate the procedure that's going to be followed at town meeting when I alert you in advance to the many motions that I have received prior to town meeting so that you can be aware and prepare. Most notably at this town meeting, there was a lot of discussion back and forth. Are we going to do Article 12? We're not going to do it. And so I was able at the preview to explain that even though the independents said, no, the select board is withdrawing their support, so town meeting won't vote on it, but in fact, that was an error in the local media, and I was able to correct it at the preview by saying, yes, in fact, we are going to go forward because we got a town meeting member who wants to present it, and she has every right to do that. So the preview is important as you prepare. A lot of the staff, other people involved, even elected officials, want again to plea that you spend a lot of time in advance of town meeting asking your questions so that the question and answer on the floor, while it can certainly be done, they're hoping that it can also be reserved for debate and deliberation among town meeting members so that we don't run into a situation where people are concerned about whether to come back another day, whether to adjourn. We didn't have that issue this time, but it's happened in the past. The consent agenda. We were very pleased at how that worked out at this past town meeting. The moderator from the town of Weston met with me at lunch. He watched the entire morning, and that was his biggest observation, was that he thought we didn't use it enough. He said you had a lot of articles where there was no debate, it was unanimous or nearly unanimous, and why weren't they on the consent agenda? And so in town meeting time, the fourth edition now encourages that, so we're going to look at that again. We're going to look at the votes that we had, look at the ones where there was no discussion and there was unanimous, and see if some of them might be appropriate to add. PAC TV and OTI at times need, during the meeting, may need extra time in order to fix certain things come up, and they just wanted everybody to be understanding of that. Town council is at the town meeting, but the town meeting is for town meeting members, and as moderator, I preside, and I spend a lot of time ahead of town meeting going over legal issues with town council. So you may have noticed there are times when somebody has a question for town council, I answer it. As you know, I happen to also be a lawyer, but in general, town council will not be doing a Q&A with town meeting members unless, I determine it's necessary. because she's not going to opine on anything that is political in nature. You know, she's not going to sway the vote one way or another. I mean, just thinking about, again, Article 12, the special regarding the firearms. I mean, we wouldn't want her to be asked questions that would have affected the vote one way or the other, because that's not her role. We also got feedback from a number of people that really didn't understand town meeting. And so just like we have a training video for town meeting members as to how to have town meeting procedure, we're going to put together one for residents in the town of Plymouth. We have a lot of new residents. Many of them come from towns that don't have representative town meeting. And so we're going to provide that. But again, a plea to all of you to think about what can you do in your precinct to educate your constituents as to how Plymouth Town Meeting works. Because we had some residents that didn't understand and had questions and were looking for help. The last thing I just want to mention is that it's the moderator's responsibility to appoint the Advisory and Finance Committee. And there are 15 members. Currently, there are 5 that have terms expiring on June 30th, and at least one other member of the Advisory and Finance Committee is running for town meeting. If that person is successful, then that'll mean 6 vacancies. And so I want to remind the committee that we're always looking for volunteers. And the volunteers can send their interest. There's for the town, they can fill it out. If they're interested, they can contact me. They can contact Jeanette at the Office of the Advisory and Finance Committee. And even if I got 10 requests and appointed 6 people, I keep those other requests because with a committee that large and with the amount of work that they have to do and with things that happen such as people moving, becoming sick and so on, I have always had resignations during the year after July 1. And so I also go to that list because it may not always be possible to post and then spend the time. You know, we like to keep the Advisory and Finance Committee fully constituted for their voting. And so if there's any of you that know of people, you know, please encourage them to contact us so that we can receive their information. We also do queries now before we appoint people. And this past year, I've also involved the chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee. Once I have someone who is a good candidate for appointment, the chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee also does an interview to make sure that the applicant understands what's involved in being a member. Because although I'm the appointment authority, the chair has the best handle, if you will, on what is involved in terms of time expectations for any particular year. And Stephen Neerman did a great job. A number of people were appointed after he met with them. Some of them weren't because it wasn't a good fit. Some of them withdrew their application when they realized the time commitment and the work involved. So that's my general presentation. And now I'm looking forward to some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Trifletti. That was fantastic. You stole some of my thunder here with kind of talking about best practices, and so I appreciate that. You know, I just want to emphasize that just to muddy even the waters a little further with what Mr. Trifletti said about enforceable. While town meeting is typically exempt from open meeting law, if you're emailing and you have created a quorum of members, COPC is, for example, not exempt from open meeting law. Best practice, blind copy people. Even better practice, when you see that there's everybody on there, don't reply all. Just reply to the person that sent you the email. Again, best practices. It's very similar to when I'm in my workplace and somebody replies all, thank you, and there's 30 of us on there.
Mr. Chair, let me just add, In the law, we often talk about substantive versus procedural. And so that's why Nicole, as just a moderator, often talks about we're not going to be debating articles in the chat during town meeting when you're remote. That's for procedure. And so too, I would encourage all of you, when you're conversing with lots of town meeting members, consider whether or not it's procedure versus substantive, because it's inappropriate to be debating the substance of an article, but it's perfectly appropriate to try to work out certain procedural questions.
Correct, yep. And then in regards to your point on some of the caucuses being smaller, not as well attended, I'd encourage each of us here that have those smaller caucuses as far as body makeup of the town meeting members to really reach out and amplify the importance of them at being at those caucuses. But if it's a typical trend that you're seeing, I think it's also a good practice for the ease for the presenters, because they do have a number of caucuses to get to, is to, I personally like to have Precinct 2 have its own caucus, each precinct having its own caucus, but if it's becoming a struggle, combine those down. I think that's only fair to our town staff and other presenters that might be there that are trying to get around to all of these different areas. That being said, I'll open up to the floor and those on chairs on the Zoom, if anyone has any comments regarding, Mr. Williams, and then, did I see your hand, Mr. Begley?
Yep. I want to thank the employees of the town for their responses to questions before the meetings, and they did a heck of a job. I'm impressed. I have one frustration. I don't think it can be solved, but the frustration is that we probably spend less time on $300 million budgets than we do on lesser things of importance. And I'd like to know more about the town and its priorities and so on before going into that discussion, so that I can at least act more intelligent. I understand that it's not town meeting's responsibility to dictate the direction of the town, which is responsible for what the budget ultimately looks like. But we seem, in my opinion, to have less discussion on the biggest items. And I don't know if there's an answer to that, Steve. I'm trying to learn more about the budget, but it still doesn't involve us in the process. And maybe we're not supposed to be, but I don't know if everybody knows that.
So Don, that's a good question, but probably not a good question for me as the moderator, because that's not really my role. However, I will tell you that in years past, we have had budget presentations from either the Director of Finance, sometimes the Chair of the Select Board, or the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee. I asked at the motions meeting whether that was going to happen this year. I was told no. I can tell you yesterday when we talked about consent agenda, even though we were aware that a number of the budget articles were passed unanimously without debate, we did observe the fact that when it comes to the budget, we're not going to be adding that to the consent agenda. But I think for a future Committee of Precinct Chairs meeting, you may want to invite the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee, because they certainly present a budget as the main motion. The Select Board hold hearings on the budget, and often they may have some type of changes different from the Finance Committee. And finally, the Director of Finance, because she works carefully. And as I look at my notes, there was one thing I forgot to mention that was mentioned at the meeting yesterday. I want you to know this, and that is that the Director of Finance singled out Geraldine Williams as a person who was in contact with her prior to town meeting, worked with her closely regarding Burke's Law, and she was very appreciative that the town meeting member, Williams, contacted her prior to town meeting. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to encourage, because it was very successful in the two of them working together and being prepared for town meeting.
So I'd like to address that one point. We did have 4 meetings prior to town meeting, and one of those, and they all kind of have blurred together at this point, but it was in February. I'm not sure if it was the 10th or the 20th. We did have the Director of Finance in here, and we did have the Town Manager in here specifically, and if you go back to the agendas and go back to the meetings, to talk about the budget. There was not much discussion, but we did work with them. They gave a lengthy presentation. There were not a ton of questions, but it was offered to the Committee of Precinct Chairs here. Also, the town had reached out to do that as well, not that we wouldn't have reached out to bring them in, but that did actually happen here at the COPC, so you can go back and look at those. Again, I can't remember which meeting it was, but they were here for a while. Okay, so Mr. Begley and then Mr. Costello.
Thanks. Yeah, I actually thought, just to jump on that real quick, that those presentations in February, whatever date those were, Matt, those were really helpful presentations that Mr. Brindisi and Ms. Barrett presented. I wonder if something to think about, I don't know if we've done it before, would be to have like the A&F chair present like a summary of how the process went.
We did, and it was difficult with timing this go around, but it is something that personally I think, and I'm sure everybody sitting here would also like to see either the chair or one of the vice chairs. I know there's a couple come in to speak, or at least represent their views going into the process. I agree with you.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Then some of the other things I just wanted to say was one general observation. I actually thought like OTI's process was one of the best town meeting that they've had, I feel like, in recent memory. I feel like we had a lot, I said one of the best, I didn't say, but I think one of the things is I noticed a lot less technical issues. The green light came on when Mr. Trifoletti said the green light should be on. I thought they did a decent job. There were some hiccups here and there, but we can easily remember other moments we've had where it was a lot more frustrating. The other thing I noticed that this has happened many times before. This wasn't the first time. But I do wonder if this is maybe for Mr. Trifoletti and some advice that you could provide to the Advisory and Finance Committee. But I do think it behooves the chairs of the Advisory and Finance Committee to refrain from editorializing while at the podium. I frankly was turned off by some of the comments that were made. And I would really appreciate if they were able to focus on the committee's work, the presentation, the recommendations they're making, truly advising us as they made votes as a body, and truly advising us as another body, rather than making their own personal opinions or personal recollections of Facebook photos known to the entire body.
Thank you, Mr. Begley, for that comment. And again, this is an area where we're getting outside the scope of my authority. So I would like to explain that to Committee of Precinct Chairs. Sometimes there's confusion. I'm not in charge of the Advisory and Finance Committee. I am the appointment authority. So I spend time interviewing candidates, observing the Advisory and Finance Committee members, and then deciding whether to reappoint people. And I make my decisions not based on how they voted. Again, using the easiest one is the firearms. I had a position on the firearms article. I don't know how any of the Advisory Finance Committee members voted, because that's not a concern of mine as an appointment authority. And when I go to do reappointments, I'm not going to look at how they voted to see if they voted the way I did. I don't have the time or the interest in that. What I will look at is, what is their attendance? Is their attendance good? And I will listen to people that come to me with comments about how good or not members were. And I tell all of the appointees, the one thing that I want from my appointments would be that you treat everybody with respect, that you treat them with dignity, and kind of, treat people as you would want people to treat you. And so, if I have other members of the Finance Committee coming to me complaining about a member, if I have staff or even town meeting members coming and complaining, I will consider that when I make the appointments, but it's not my role. So earlier this year, when the Committee of Precinct Chairs complained about a member of the Advisory and Finance Committee, and I received an email, I wrote back and I said, this should be directed to the chair because I'm not the chair of the committee. I have no authority to intervene. I'm happy to support people when they want to contact me, and I often do talk to the chair or members of the committee when they contact me, but I don't look to get involved where I'm not being asked to be involved, and I don't want to interfere in any way. So, going back to your concern, I think you have to go back to the committee. I'm not going to be telling them whether to do editorial comment. I do encourage them and try to lead them, and in fact, yesterday that did come up about how sometimes when I read the motion, the chair regurgitates it back. And so we talked about maybe talking about your recommendation and not just saying the same thing that I just read into the record, which I have to do. Finally, you heard that the current chair is not going to be serving as the chair next year. He'll continue to be on the committee, but he will not be the chair. And so, once again, I encourage the Committee of Precinct Chairs to invite the Advisory and Finance Committee chair to your meeting, maybe as early as your August meeting, since the Advisory and Finance Committee will be selecting a new chair at their July meeting.
May
All right, Mr. Costello?
Yes, Alan Costello, Precinct 10. I thought town meeting overall went very well, but my biggest issue, and I strongly agree with Mr. Bagley, was the editorial comments coming out of FinCom. I thought it was unprofessional. There was no place for that. There's certainly that committee does great work, and to advise us with their vote and their reasoning for voting has worked in the past. And I think it should be kept at that. Now, the gentleman announced early in the meeting, as Mr. Trifoletti just stated, that he was going to retire or retire from that position. So there's no sense making a big deal about it. But I think we should take Mr. Trifoletti's advice as the Committee of Precinct Chairs and really take a sort of a deep dive as to what the role of the Advisory and Finance Committee is the morning of town meeting, the day of town meeting, and what we hope to, or what we expect to hear from them. The editorial comments, like I said, at one time I actually stood up to try to make a point. There was no need for that. You can disagree, you can agree, but there was no need for the personal thing. That really bothered me. That was my number one thing coming off of the review today. So I think it's something we should put an agenda item in a slow month of the year and really try to rein that back in, because I think we lost control of it this last meeting. The next thing, Mr. Trifoletti, I'd like to ask you is the town meeting follows town meeting times. You've said that many times. I've actually bought the book, read the book. How did that come about? How long has town meeting accepted that set of rules?
It was in effect prior to my tenure as moderator when I first began serving in 1992. But I can't tell you how much earlier than that. I do know that the first thing I did when I became moderator was I made sure I had a copy. And in fact, in my first year, I used the stipend to donate 13 copies to the library because there were 13 precincts at that time. But I can't tell you how long, except that I can tell you that it was used. And Mr. Costello, with your earlier comment regarding the Advisory Finance Committee chair, while I won't tell the Advisory Finance Committee what to do, I will be sure to share your concerns with the chair once the chair is selected, and then the chair can, decide how they want to respond.
I appreciate that. And getting back to the town meeting times, I don't have any objection with it if that's how we're going to operate the meeting. What made me bring it up this evening is both Saturday at town meeting and then again tonight, I think you talked about additions to town meeting times, renditions or additions, number 3, number 4, number 5. And I would think that, again, that this Committee of Precinct Chairs might want to just review what some of the new issues and topics the Town Meeting Times is thinking is important for town meeting, and make sure that we still align with that. And if we do, we stick with it. I have no objection to the way it's gone in the past, but if there are some new feelings, like you mentioned earlier, the consent agenda. Now, that did work, and it worked fine on Saturday. I'm not so sure that just because an article doesn't have any debate or it passes unanimously, that I think we should sweep a ton of them in at one time, but maybe the body does think that. But I think as another middle of the summer type topic, we should take a look at Town Meeting Times and make sure we're still aligned with it. And then my final question, if you know this, Mr. Trifoletti, is the cost of the OTI and the social media platform. What does that cost now for town meeting for a day like two Saturdays ago?
Again, that's outside my authority. I don't set the budget. That's really something that happens on the town side. That information could be obtained from the Director of Finance. I know she has it readily available because somebody else asked the question, and I think she had an answer for them, but I don't remember what it was. What I will say is that there's definitely a cost to continue town meetings. So while we have done that in years past, and I am always ready, I make sure that the venue is reserved for the Monday following the Saturday session. I make sure that there's coordination so that local scene and others can keep their equipment at the school. We're fully prepared, but there's no question that I do what I can to try to be efficient so that when we don't need to continue, we can save on those costs. Beyond that, there's a contract with OTI. I'm not a party to that, but that's certainly information that can be obtained from the side. That's really, again, not within my, even though I'm the moderator and I preside at town meeting, I don't have the authority to enter into a contract with any of the vendors, and I don't set what the rates would be.
No, that's fair enough. And again, I don't have a huge problem with OTI. I just remember, 5, 7, 8 years ago, pre-pandemic, we used to banter around, a $5,000 a meeting cost. There was a 3-year or a 3-meeting contract, and that was the number. Now, the production that they put on now is head and shoulders above that. I mean, they're doing Zoom calls and V-Voter. They have the closed caption in 1 or 2 places in the room. It's quite professional. I'm not arguing that. I just want to see what the cost is today versus when we used to bicker about $5,000.
Seems like a small number now. But that being said, I think I've asked it of the Director of Finance before. I think it was after the fall town meeting. I'll go back and look and see if I can find that, but in the meantime, I'll ask her for this specific town meeting, what the budget was for
Just
that.
a general information.
Yep.
Don't go crazy on it, but I was just, I just wanted to see where we had gotten to.
Sure.
But thank you very much for your answers, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
And I apologize, Mr. Begley. I think you had a follow-up from earlier for Mr. Trifletti, and I kind of jumped right to Alan, so.
I'm sorry.
No, that was on me.
No, that's
Go ahead,
okay.
Mr. Begley.
Thank you, that's okay. Alan agreed with me, so I'm pretty much all set. But, just to sort of not to belabor the point really any further, but I think what I heard Mr. Trifletti just say there in response to Mr. Costello's comment that he would provide some sense of guidance to the next chair was very much appreciated, just like you had mentioned that you do in terms of the repeating the motion. I feel like something simple as that, as you said, you would provide that sort of feedback to them on the repeating motion would be effective also with the editorializing comment. It is not directed necessarily at the current and the outgoing Advisory and Finance Committee chair. It is a pattern I have noticed over the years of many chairs that they have a habit to use the podium to express their own personal opinions when giving the committee's report. And so I don't think it's tied to this. I think it's something we've seen before that we should do our best to avoid going forward. And perhaps that does mean bringing them, to Alan's point, bringing them, and since they are advisory, we can give them a set of guidelines on how we most, as town meeting members, appreciate receiving information from them, rather than them just relying on the pulpit at this stage.
Sure, and I agree with the moderator that probably in August, that's a good time to have them in. That gives them they have their reorganization meeting in July, gives them a couple of weeks to get their bearings, I guess, if you will. And we don't know who the chair of the COPC will be at that point, but I definitely will, I'll put it on, I think you've seen in our agenda items, upcoming agenda items, I can put it on there. The agenda is obviously set by whoever the COPC chair will be at that point. But I think it's a great, it would be also a good relationship builder, setting expectations. I think it's a great idea. So I definitely will encourage that for the chair in August. Anyone else have any further comments, either within the room or online for the moderator or in general? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Trifletti, for moderating, and we appreciate your hard work, and also pass that along to Nicole, your assistant town moderator. She did a wonderful job. I saw her running around that stage a lot, trying to keep things in order, so thank you very much.
Thank you, and again, you're right, she does a lot of work behind the scenes, and in fact, following yesterday's meeting, she's going to be sending out an email to everybody highlighting a lot of the things that I mentioned tonight as recommendations from this past town meeting. So thank you, and I'll be happy to come back in the future.
All right, just make sure she blind copies everybody.
She will.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item. This just was added for us at the last week's Distinguished Visitors Committee meeting on April 9th. The Distinguished Visitors Committee, as you may or may not know, is preparing the Plymouth Public School students to go over to Shikigahama, Japan, July 29th through August 6th. Along with those students are also, call it VIP delegates from within the community or the town government makeup. And one of those spots that they'd like to offer is for a member from the Committee of Precinct Chairs to see if there's interest in sending someone over to Japan. Nobody understands me, Pat, so it's okay. Over to Japan this summer. I did raise the point that, we're making this decision before we have a town election coming up. We have potentially new Committee of Precinct chairs. We have potentially, there's a whole number of variables that can happen. And the one caveat that they did have, or they suggested, was that the person, if we decide amongst ourselves who to send, as long as they are a town meeting member, even if they've decided not to be a Committee of Precinct chair member, that they would do that because of the timeline of when you need to make a decision on putting names on tickets, XYZ. So for now, I bring it to all of you as to if anyone wants to volunteer to go to Japan, or if it's something that we want to pass up and then they'll move on to another person as a delegate. Just to give you an idea of who's going as far as where they allotted, there's a spot for the planning committee. There is a spot for, obviously, town manager. I believe there's spots that were reached out to. No one's confirmed yet, but either from the police department and the fire department, a select board member, school committee members. But this was something where the Distinguished Visitors Committee decided to open it up because town meeting's part of the our town government, and so they suggested that we select somebody. So I open up the floor to the discussion with everyone. Anyone want to go? Yeah, Mr. Williams.
No, I don't want to go. I've been to Japan, but I would say if you can go, you should go. Japan is really an interesting place. It's unlike anything that I have traveled to or have traveled to since. And it's an amazing place. It's worthwhile. It's definitely worth the trip.
And I have had a family member go over there and said the same thing, and everyone that I've spoken with, I do sit on the Distinguished Visitors Committee, that I've spoken with that's either gone over there or in the past or is planning to go, but Shikigahama takes their sister city relationship with Plymouth very, very seriously, and it's a top-notch trip. So I'll put that out there. Mr. Begley.
I cannot go, so I'm not volunteering, but thank you. It's very nice, I think, that the Distinguished Visitors Committee has opened this up to the COPC and town meeting in general, and recognizing, obviously, the form of government. I did just want to, just sort of maybe echo what Mr. Williams said, but I actually went on the exchange when I was in high school in town, and was part of the Plymouth delegation that went to Japan. And it is amazing. And what you said, Matt, is exactly right. They take it very seriously, and really, roll out the red carpet for Plymouth, its students, and its delegation. I was fortunate enough to go with Dr. Maestas when he was superintendent. He went. I think Mr. Quintal was also chair of the select board back then when I went, and he joined us, and the town manager at the time also came. And it was quite an experience, and something that is very interesting. And they actually have a replica of the Plymouth Patuxent's Fort Meeting House that they've built outside of their visitor center there. So it also had a feeling like going home a little bit, across the ocean. So
That's great. Maybe I should add to this to sweeten the pot a little bit. Your expense to go over there, lodging, et cetera, is covered by the Distinguished Visitors Committee budget for VIPs, not for the students at the moment. I know that that's been brought up by the Select Board in the past, a number of years ago. It's something that they're looking at. They have a tight budget number. I'm sure you saw it all in your budget packets recently. So, Ms. Holmes.
So I think this is fantastic that the Distinguished Visitors Committee has extended this to the COPC. I'd like to suggest that that's something that we should absolutely find someone that would be interested in going. I would suggest that the first take should be the chair of the COPC, if that's something you're amenable to, Matt. And if not, then I understand you're very busy, you have a full-time working job. But I think that this is something that it has legs. So we're representing our form of government, but we're representing our town. We're also representing this body and the town meeting members that volunteer, the 160 plus of them. And so it's an opportunity for us to educate the young people, not only in the town of Plymouth that are on that trip, but also the young people in that community on the importance of volunteerism, giving back, democracy, and I think there's a lot of value in it.
While I do appreciate that, and as much as I would absolutely love to go to Japan, I have a son who I will be taking down to Tennessee to college right about that time frame. So I will respectfully thank you for the offer, but I'm going to turn it down. I will echo what you said. When I spent a lot of time with the delegation when they were over here, they were fascinated about the town meeting side of government, the legislative side. So there was a lot of commentary, and I think that that's where the DVC kind of brought up, we should be sending town meeting members, because I don't mean fascinated in it's curious sort of way, I just meant more, it's very interesting, they learned more about the town government this past trip when they came here this past summer. So is there Anyone else? I'd love to be able to go back to them with a name.
So could we take a motion that, or I don't know if we need a motion, but are we asking for volunteers to step forward and consider it at this point? And is that
That's the
is that what
ask.
you're looking for?
Yeah.
I'm hoping Pompey says yes.
Well, among other things, my question is, how long do we have to discuss this? When does this decision have to be made?
Sure. I think, so I think what we can do is that we can decide that this is something we would like to pursue this evening. I don't believe I need to give them the name until, sorry, I've got a lot going on here. Until they have a meeting May 7th, but we don't have a meeting until May 15th. I think if we knew by May 15th if there was a volunteer, but who that is specifically. But I think tonight we should decide if this is something that we want to take them up on as an offer. Otherwise, they're going to start looking at other avenues and other people that we could send within the town government.
Could you clarify the dates as to when that trip is? Is it confirmed?
It is departing July 29th and then returning August 6th. And, airfare and then a train ride. At the moment, it could change to a bus like they did last time, but from the airport to Shikigahama.
Okay, so would it make sense for us to take a motion that this is something, and we get the committee's approval, that this is something we want to pursue, so that the distinguished visitors know that this is something that they don't have to look further for yet, we are going to evaluate it.
Right, if we had a volunteer immediately this evening jump out of their seat and say, I'm going to Japan, I would have taken that. But I think I think for fairness to that other town committee to say, whether that's something the COPC feels is helpful or wants to do is have a person represent, I think we should go through with that this evening.
Fair enough. So I'll make a motion that this is something that the COPC should consider and take nominations for someone to represent us in this
And I would second that.
this trip.
Okay, so Ms. Holmes has a motion that, on the floor, that the Committee of Precinct chairs
Accept the invitation.
takes the DVC up on their offer to have representation on the Japan delegation trip this summer. Pompey seconded. Discussion. Mr. Begley.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think because you kind of went off the dates there already, but you said, so we're going to go back and I'll look at our schedules and see if we can make the flights. But the next meeting for the distinguished visitors is May 7th. Our next meeting is post that.
May 15th. So what I would do is go to the DVC on the 7th and let them know beforehand if they're not already watching at home. But go before them and say that the COPC wants a representative, but we would have to have that person and that name by the 15th.
Well, but then if, say, we've now, reserved our slot, and we aren't able, or there is nobody to fill that, they have not then pursued their other avenues to...
We have, at the DVC, a couple backups, if you will.
Okay.
But we're doing the common courtesy
Yeah.
thing here first.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm putting on two hats, DVC and COPC, but.
And there's
Sal.
nobody tonight that is showing any interest?
So
No.
I would be willing to show some interest. I cannot at this point commit, but I would show some interest in doing it.
I love that. Thank you, Pompey.
I do have a member of the DVC with his hand up. Len, do you have some corrections on dates for me? Len, you had your hand up. Did you want to speak? Len looks like he's pondering. Okay. All right, never mind. Ms. Holmes. We're still in discussion.
Okay, so Pompey has put his name potentially forward as of interest. And I think I heard you say that if the COPC members are not available to do this, that we could open it up to town meeting members. Is that correct?
No, the way that the DBC had phrased it to me was that because chairs can change, it's very confusing because of the timeline of this. We have an election, which is also right after our next COPC meeting. As long as that person was still a town meeting member and they had that COPC experience, because of the names, the timing of it, tickets, et cetera, that would be, they would be happy with that. Not just opening it up to 162 applicants. Does that make sense? Any further discussion on the motion, which, yeah, Mr. Costello?
I've been hearing about this trip, sister cities, for quite a while. How long has it been going on? Obviously,
Oh,
since you
gosh.
were in high school, so
Yeah.
12 years?
Yeah, Mr. Begley's only been out of high school for 5 years now, so.
No, it's been some time, but, well, I mean, I don't know who, there's probably people who know the history better than I do, and I think there's an exhibit down the hall, so
Yeah.
a plug for the town hall staff putting this stuff together. But I believe it goes back to the 90s, early 90s at least, with
Alba Thompson.
Alba Thompson, and then Margie Burgess had taken it on and really led it forward.
Right. It had been something that had been, I can't remember the exact date of when it started, but it was something that kind of started to fall off the table. And Alba Thompson and Margie Burgess kind of picked it back up, got the schools more involved and pushed that ball forward. There's tributes to Alba over in Chickagahama. Len, I see your hand raised again. Len is from DBC, and while we're in discussion, I am going to allow Len to come in just to hopefully clarify anything I may have misspoken on. So go ahead, Len.
Can you hear me okay?
We got you now.
Okay. I was having a hard time getting my audio on my iPad. So the sooner the better, because we have some dates that we have to tell them how many people we're actually going to have traveling. Right now, that number is 20, and if we pass that date, we end up eating the ticket. So just waiting we have a cutoff date when we have to give them the names, and I'm in the process of gathering all that information. As you can imagine, it's more than just your name. There's lots of other stuff we have to give them for the ticket. So if you could decide tonight, that would be great. There's 10 kids, 2 chaperones. Like Matt said, it departs on the 29th and you land on the 30th. So it's a nonstop flight out of Boston and right to Tokyo. And then we're in the process of working on a different mode of transportation to get you from the airport in Tokyo, Narita, up to Shishigahama. Shishigahama is on the upper east side of the coast of Japan. It's about a 5-hour bus ride. But we're looking at possibly trying to figure out a way to have you transport on the bullet train. So as Don said, if you've never been to Tokyo, so understand you're going to be spending your time in Shishigahama, not in Tokyo. But, and so I encourage you, if you could decide for somebody to make that commitment, that you want to send somebody and we can, get that name and get them into the system.
Yep. So we're in discussion now that we'll actually be able to send someone. Unfortunately, we won't be able to give you an actual name until I'm going to make the deadline our next COPC meeting. We could try and convene a meeting between now and May, but for just one agenda item, I don't think that that's going to be feasible with other meetings and availability in town hall. So we can absolutely say that we will take a spot, but we wouldn't have that name until probably May 15th.
That's great, that's great.
All right. Jackie, I see your hand up online. Would you like to unmute yourself and come in?
Thank you, yes. So I've heard a couple of different things here. I did hear at first that the eligibility for this would be a COCP member first, and then if no one to the town meeting, so
No, that's.
I understand that that's incorrect.
That is
but
incorrect.
what-
It's
What I
preferred.
heard after that was that really the requirement is that you're a town meeting member and you have COPC experience.
So,
So,
no,
does
so.
that mean, okay,
So I'll explain it. So the DVC would like a member of the COPC to be present on this trip. Due to the timing of everything with the town election and reorganizations of precincts, so your reorganization of your precinct, you have, 30 days to reorg.
right.
They would need to know the name of that person, and as we know with reorganizations, there's not always a guarantee that you will be the chair within that
Right, it's an
reorganization.
elected
Within
position.
that timeline, but you will still be a town meeting member. So within that timeline, you could lose your chair seat, but at least you have had that chair experience, and the DVC was good with keeping whoever that person is, because we have to put names, you have to have passports submitted, paperwork in.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
So
not
it's
opening it
not
up to
current
all
town
162
meter,
town meeting members.
But, so it's not current town meeting, but has COPC experience in the past. It's current COPC committee members or the new ones.
Well, no, it can't be or the new ones, because it would be too late for a ticket at that purchase. It is current
30 days,
COPC
okay.
members that you see
Yeah.
here tonight. If they are a town meeting member and they, during their reorganization, are not reelected as chair, they can still go, because at that point, they're still a town meeting member, and they've had that COPC experience.
Okay, I just want to make sure that my notes on this are really accurate.
Sure. Do you want me to explain it one more time? I'm more than happy
No,
to.
I've got it.
Just so I can make, I want everyone to understand. Is everyone fairly clear on? What really is hampering us here is the fact, just so everyone's clear on this, and hopefully, Jackie, this helps as well, is the fact of the timing of the trip, when documents have to be in, and the fact that we have a town election and then reorganization. So, you could have a reorganization on June 12th, and you're leaving next month for a trip. And that's not enough time for us to be able to change names and, at the DVC level, and with the airlines. Everything's through a travel agent. They need all that information, in advance of that, so. Any further discussion? Mr. Riley?
Is this anything we can do with the 18 of us through email, just for a vote where it's kind of informal?
No, because it's a vote and we are subject to open meeting law.
Is there anything we can do to postpone your son's trip a week? And just solve this right now? Because I'm honing you
He is
up.
not going to be happy if he's not out of the house and at college, so, Ms. Holmes.
So the only thing that I would like possibly to suggest is that if somebody comes forward via email to you and says, I'm very interested in doing this, we could call like a 15-minute meeting virtually, potentially, that
We could do that with 48 hours' notice. So I would actually be open to that, and we can discuss that after we get out of discussion about this motion that's on the table right at the moment, which is just that we can get into other ways to speed this process along. But at the moment, our motion on the table, I agree with you, but our motion on the table is to decide whether we're sending someone or not. Well, we're in discussion, so is there any further discussion?
This is just the last question.
Mr. Begley.
Do we actually need this vote? Like, could just the receiving of just the receiving of we're getting.
I'd like to formally let the DVC know that we are sending someone.
So but, okay, you can just say yes? I mean, we actually have to do this, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's been motioned. We have a motion on the table, unless the motion's rescinded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
3 quick questions. When did, Oh, I'm sorry, did you call me?
No,
All right.
I'll, go ahead. Because it might all work together here.
When did that visitors, distinguished visitors vote on this?
Last week.
So just why such the last minute, the vote?
We were still working, we were still
Last
working
year.
through, makeup, who could go, how many students were interested, so then that would shape the size
Okay.
of the people that we
I think
have.
it's fantastic the
Yeah.
kids go, but
Yeah.
I don't understand. What's the goal?
There are less kids going
Is
than,
the goal to?
there are less kids going so that we can open up the delegation a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's the goal of this junket? Are we going to try to convince the residents, I don't want to try to pronounce the town, to change their form of government?
It's your sister city, you should know
Sister city?
Shikagahama.
I don't want to.
Just like Plymouth, England, I know that one's easier.
That's easier, right. But what's the goal? What was the goal when it was set up?
The goal is just to show representation from both sides. No, there's no,
So we're not working, they're not working with us, we're not working with them to try to get to an end goal for all of these monies that are spent, all of this getting our.
Oh, I thought
What's
you
the
were
goal
saying,
of-
what's the goal of having a town meeting or a COPC
No,
member
I
going
understand that, I
there?
understand that, but
We have fostered a worldwide, or a world, across the world relationship with these two communities that has actually sent tourists to this side. I would like to see more of our residents, if we can, somehow promote it to go over to Japan. The relationship that they've had summits when they've come here. They've hosted summits for us when we've gone over there, particularly in the education field. They have a monstrous blue economy over there, which is something that here in the town of Plymouth, we have started to hugely expand upon. We actually even have a conference here down on the waterfront in the hotel, and they're also interested in, when we were speaking with them on their last visit here, they were interested in that. They actually do way more than we do as far as that goes. It's a big driver within their town economy. And I think it's something that delegations from here should hear and see and witness and what they do over there. I mean, they do everything. I mean, it's like seaweed harvesting. I mean, there's a lot over there. It's not just like us with, fish and mussels and, et cetera.
I know, I appreciate that, it's good to know what's going on with the.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a global education for our, not so little anymore, but seaside town here, I think. And I think that is priceless, to be honest with you. Mr. LaFrere.
If someone does volunteer to go, would they be able to pay for someone else to accompany them, like a spouse?
Oh, Len disappeared. I think that has happened in the past, but I can get back to you with that answer. I think that has happened in the past. But it would be on that person dime, you know what I mean? But I can get back to you with that answer. I think that has happened in the past, though.
Then
I was a lot younger, though.
Then I'll tentatively put my name in.
Okay, well, we're still in discussion on whether we're going to, we can talk about that in a minute. I just want to remind everyone, we're in discussion about if we are going to decide if we are going to be sending a representative. And that can be a yes or a no. Any further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McGee, I see you waving your hand, please, go ahead.
It's a question about voting. I understood that substitute visitors tonight, like myself, who's the vice chair, are we allowed to vote?
You, currently, right now, because the new charter has not gone to the State House or gone through the State House, right now, you are, as a vice chair, has been this committee's standing operation that vice chairs may vote.
Chairs may vote. So what's this change that's going to the State House?
Oh, I'm not going to get into all the charter changes that we reviewed.
No, I'm talking about the vote.
Oh, very briefly, the changes that went through were that the Committee of Precinct chairs, only the chairs will vote. But we're getting way off topic.
Point of
Yeah.
order here.
Yeah,
We
point of
need
order.
to stick and.
I agree.
I don't think it's off topic. I'm wondering whether I can vote or not, so.
No, you asked what the changes to the charter were, and anyway, any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'm going to call for the vote. It's a roll call vote. Precinct 1,
Yes.
Precinct 2, yes. Precinct 3,
Yes.
Precinct 4,
Yes.
Precinct 5,
Yes.
Precinct 6, Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Precinct 7, Jackie is nodding her head, okay. I'll take that. Precinct 8,
Yes.
Precinct 9,
Yes.
Precinct 10,
Precinct 10, yes.
Precinct 11,
Yes.
Precinct 12,
Yes.
Precinct 13,
Yes.
Precinct 14,
Yes.
Precinct 15, absent. Precinct 16,
Yes.
Precinct 17,
Yes.
Precinct 18.
Yes.
Okay. Since we have asked for this, I am going to kind of wrap up this topic since I'm the one that put it on here and have to deal with it. I would like those that might be interested, if you could email me, and if you have any questions, please email me. If there is enough interest, I will look to try and find a date before the May 15th meeting to do a one topic, one agenda, Zoom-only meeting. You will know about that at least 48 hours in advance, and it'll be posted with the town clerk, unless there are any objections to that. Just so we could keep things moving here, I think is the best possible. Mr. Riley.
And is that just for a vote if there's more than one person looking to attend?
Correct. Yeah.
If there's only one, there's no need to have a
If there's only one, I will blind copy everybody and say we only have one volunteer. And because we have, at this point, I would see that we have done our duty where we've said that we would send one representative, so if only one person shows interest, and I would ask that you let me know, preferably by next Wednesday, the 23rd, so that I have ample time to make to pull together a 15-minute meeting, hopefully, before the next DVC and Committee of Precinct Chairs meeting. That work? Okay. So now we are very behind, and moving on to the next piece is the public comment bylaw and effect on caucus meetings. Now, there was some conversations that have happened since town meeting accepted the Article 28 Citizens Petition bylaw amendment. There were people that were trying to understand what was accepted. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully this works. It's probably small, but what you are seeing here and was sent to you all via email was the article. I just pulled it right out of the approved motions that we got from Jeanette of the language as approved with all of those motions that were made within it. There were questions that have obviously have come out from town meeting members, chairs, etc. I sat down with the town clerk and went over a number of those questions. She also gave me some other notes to speak about. And I also had a conversation with the with town council. And I'm going to kind of give you an update on where we're at in the process and what some of those answers to those questions are. Unless anyone wants to hear my voice, does anyone need me to read the bylaw amendment as it stands now, or are you all have read through it? Okay, thank you. So first things first, The town clerk has 30 days with these bylaws to get them sent to the Attorney General. So we're still in that window. It has not been sent to the Attorney General. It will be done here shortly. The Attorney General then has, within 90 days, whether they approve or disapprove with the bylaw that goes, that town meeting approved. So we'll know that we're still within that window as well. Just to let you know, here's a few things that have come out of some questions here. A lot of people were curious as to if adding open meeting law language at the bottom of an agenda is appropriate. The overwhelming response from the people that I spoke with is it adds confusion and it is not something that you should do. That's open meeting law. It does, some sections point to public comment, but it adds confusion. And I'd also like to remind everyone within this body that we are not open meeting law experts. Some of us may think that we are, but we aren't. So I'm working off of town clerk and town council when I start going through this. The part of the article that speaks to public comment, it says each precinct caucus shall have provision in its agenda for public comment. Provision refers to a line item saying the two words public comment. At the discretion of the chair, public comment may be made at one time or interspersed with presentations at the meeting. You'll see on our agenda, typically we have public comment towards the end. Sometimes in our agendas in the past and in other town-wide committees, they have sometimes put public comment towards the beginning and also towards the end, and have, at the discretion of the chair, allowed public comment within a discussion. That actually happened in this recent, last month's a select board meeting. They allowed some public comment during a agenda item. A minimum of 2 minutes may be allowed for each public comment speaker, okay? When someone comes to speak before you for public comment, they are allowed 2 minutes to speak. That 2 minutes may be allowed to be a longer period at the discretion of the chair. The chair, after consultation with the precinct's town meeting members present, may set a limit to or extend the length of time for any public comment. So you are actually, with that sentence, allowed to shorten the time of public comment as well, not just lengthen. You can shorten it to a minute, but you need to consult with your other town meeting members if you're going to shorten public comment. The caucus members, by motion and a majority vote, may extend the time allowed for public comment if the chair chooses not to do so. That line item means that if a majority of your caucus members, if the chair does not want to extend the time from 2 minutes, which is the minimum, that a motion can be made by the caucus members and extend that time for public comment. Public comment cannot be censored. This means, at the moment, that they can, any public can speak to whatever topic they choose. Further definition of censored, I have a feeling we'll figure out with the Attorney General. Okay? Okay, so at this point, there's a lot of information here. At this point, we're still in the ticking clock of if this bylaw has been accepted. It's been accepted by town meeting, but we're going through the state process. The town clerk has asked that for best practices and to get in the habit that you start putting public comment on your printed agenda or the agenda you send to the town clerk. I cannot enforce you to do that, but I think it's a best practice and it's good to get into the habit. If it comes back from the Attorney General that this bylaw is no good, either in parts or pieces or altogether, everything could change, as with everything, just like our charter when it gets up there. The other point that the town clerk wanted me to reiterate to you, and it kind of dovetails into what the town moderator spoke to, when you're sending your meetings agendas in to be posted, if you're sending it, as you should, to meetings at Town of Plymouth or however that email address is, you need to realize that email address is seen by the entire town clerk's office staff so that they post agendas timely. It's not, Kelly does, the town clerk does a lot of them, but if she's absent or out and they want to make sure you're in for that 48 hours, everybody in that staff gets that email. So when you're sending in your agenda, I would suggest that you also blind copy your fellow town meeting members. They'll get a copy, but what's happening is there's some reply all going on with all the town meeting members, and now you have however many members of the town clerk's office being tied up trying to see if that's relevant to what they're supposed to be dealing with in their town daily tasks. So out of courtesy to them, best practice, again, feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, blind copy your town meeting members. It's not in regards to open meeting law violation, it's out of a common courtesy to our town staff. Again, I can't force you to do anything you don't want to do, but I would highly and strongly suggest that. Okay, that was a lot of information, and I want to remind everyone that if you'd like to talk about this, I'm willing to talk about this for a few minutes, but it is not discussion like we had on town meeting floor. It's not whether you like it, you don't like it. This is just purely questions on anything I may have relayed, or if there's further questions you need clarity on that I need to ask. Okay, Pat?
I send my agenda separately to the town clerk's office, so are you suggesting that I send it all at once?
No, I do the same thing. I send it to the town clerk's office, and then I send it separately to my precinct members. So that's also a good practice. It's just been brought to my attention from the town clerk's office that there are some precincts that may send it all at once, which I also understand because you're just getting it off your plate in one email. So, but if you do choose to do that mass email, if you will, make sure your members are blind copied, so that way they're not replying all to every single member of the town clerk staff. But if you do it, I'm going to keep doing it the same way that you do it, which is send it to the clerk. And yep. Any further? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that way I can see everyone online. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Not seeing any. We're going to move along to the fun part of the evening, Legislative Oversight Committee update. Mr. Costello.
Good evening, Alan Costello, Precinct 10. Going to bring you a brief update on the Legislative Oversight Committee. We last met on March 27th in the rope walk room. We were joined by the administrative assistant who joined us for the meeting. We took up a couple topics. The main one was the Herring Pond Road articles that we as town meeting voted back in, I believe it was the fall of 18, where 25, 26, and 27. We talked about it briefly. We had to suspend our talks because there was some litigation, but we opted to put it on our next meeting. We also at that meeting decided to meet more frequently and we had put together a meeting for April 8th, where we were going to take up three additional topics to Herring Pond. We were going to do the traffic study, we were going to do the land purchase of the full sale, and one sort of easy one, we were going to get some answers on the hangar up at the airport. There's a new building, I guess it would be on the east end of the airport. That's, all the equipment is there to lay out a new building. We were just going to check on the status of that. That meeting was canceled, subsequently canceled, because at the time, the town manager wanted to attend and present on several of those articles. However, April 8th was Tuesday evening, so he had a conflict with the Select Board's meeting. And he asked us if we could change the meeting to April 28th, which is a Monday evening, which we had no problem doing. And so that's where we stand. We have a full agenda that's already been put together by the administrative assistant. The town manager wishes to attend and fill us in. And that's, as of this moment, that's where the Legislative Oversight Committee is going forward. Our hope is to meet more frequently, twice a month loosely. So we have a lot of content, a lot of suggestions from the members. Everyone's sort of getting input from others. There's a host of things we wanted to sort of track down. So I think once we have this date, whether it's a Monday, cannot be a Tuesday any longer, because the town manager would probably make a lot of our meetings. He seems to have an interest in joining us. So probably going to be Monday nights, and it'll be hopefully twice a week, but twice a month, I'm sorry. But that's where we stand at this time. Thank you.
All right.
And I'll take any questions, yes?
Yeah, I think it's the 23rd. That's what's posted.
There was a lot of confusion on that. Is it
Yeah.
on to the 23rd?
So it is the 23rd, the 28th, the town manager will be on vacation.
I didn't hear. What did she say?
It is the 23rd.
Okay, my mistake, because there
And
was
is-
some problem
is-
with that. 28th?
It was originally the 28th, you're right, but it was switched to the 23rd because the town manager will be on vacation.
Oh, I didn't know there was a second conflict. Okay, my fault.
Yeah, I did see the emails go back and forth. It is the 23rd. And is that just via Zoom only, or is that in
That
town?
particular meeting would be Zoom only, right?
Okay. So that agenda, if people go to the 23rd on the town website, they could pull that agenda up. Any further discussion or questions? So I see
I'll be first.
Mr. Delafield, then Ms. Holmes.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring up a comment that was made to me for your consideration as a committee, and it's very simple. They said, this is actually Betsy Hall, who we all know, who's been a member of this committee and a number of her items. She's been a town meeting member and is retiring this year. And her comment to me was, has the committee thought of maybe having each of us take on one of your responsibilities and reporting to you as a way to spread the load so that we could cover more of them at one time, that maybe you could parcel out. So I don't think we need to discuss it, but I bring it so that it can be part of the things that you might want to discuss as a committee as to whether each of us could assume one particular item and then report to you on that item, just to make it so you could cover more.
No, I think that's actually a very solid idea. Through the life of this Legislative Oversight Committee, we've actually gone back and forth a few times and asked for the help of the committee, the whole committee of precinct chairs. And at certain times, the committee of precinct chairs has been the Legislative Oversight Committee. And there has been a couple of times where we've spun off a separate committee. But I think it makes all the sense in the world to have members of this committee be involved. If there's an article that you're knowledgeable about, maybe it's in your precinct, it's something you're familiar with, and you have some information that would be beneficial, by all means, I think that's the way to go.
Just out of curiosity, how many, I know this was formed before I was even a chair. There were 10 to 15 before members of this. What are we down to now?
The first night when we set up the committee in this room, there was 16 people. At this time, right now, there's 9.
9?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting anxious, to use the proper, or to use a word here. I've seen a lot of meetings come and go. I understand it's hard to get 9 people in a room. That a similar situation happened on a committee I was on. It went from about 6 people, ballooned up to about 17, and we couldn't even get a quorum. So the select board thankfully brought that back. Is having 9 people part of the problem with your scheduling?
No, I don't think that's been a problem at all, to be honest with you. I think the 9 people that have stayed with the committee since the beginning have been very good members. I would say that during town meeting times, we sometimes take a little layoff and get ready for the incoming articles or whatever. But no, I don't think it's been a problem at all. I think we don't seem to have an issue with a quorum because we don't vote any substantial votes at any real frequency.
You don't really,
So
right.
what it happens to be, and there's some very good investigators, there's several of the members like taking on 2 or 3 of the articles and gathering information and getting it back to us, and then we'll discuss it.
I've seen one presentation since I've been here, and like I said, I'm just getting to the point where I'm getting anxious to see more, and I understand it's hard, and it's a lot of work, and I also don't know if it's something that, if you feel it's helpful that we help narrow the scope of the Legislative Oversight Committee, or if it's something that you feel that those 9 members can handle, is figuring out the scope. And I know that's part of one of your conversation points on your agenda, so.
I would honestly welcome anyone that wanted to be involved, because there's a host of things. I mean, we could all pick 2 articles tonight, and we still wouldn't cover everything. But to your point, if there's other people that had an interest, I think bring them in.
I'm going to go with, do you have your hand up, or no? Oh, you're, okay. I'm going to go with Ms. Holmes and then Mr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was actually the chair when we created the legislative oversight that's currently being worked on right now. And I guess the questions I have are, how effective do you feel like this is? Is it working? Because, when we created this, the expectation was that there was going to be a group of people that would map out how you were going to do legislative oversight. And I personally went out and solicited many really strong members of the town meeting to participate in this so that we could ensure that we had a good body to attack this with full force, with the expectation that we would basically take a year and, and divvy it up. And so I guess the question that I have is, how are you organizing? Because we've lost a lot of people, which is unfortunate. But because you now have 9, there's nothing that says that you can't say to, the 9 people, you divvy it up in their groups of 2, and you say to them, hey, you're gonna take a look at 2020, and you're taking a look at 2022, and then they report back to you as the chair. It just feels like there's not, and Matt kind of touched on this a little bit, and it sounds like Betsy's even kind of getting the same feel. It doesn't really feel like we're making, we're not making progress here. And so what can we do? And do we dissolve this subcommittee and bring it back into the COPC and we all take an item? Or is there still value in it being a subcommittee? Because I looked, I can't even find meeting minutes on the, it's been almost 2 years now that has been a subcommittee. And I don't know what's being discussed. Part of it is, you say, well, you're going to talk about some articles, which is great. But what would be good is if we could weigh the priorities of those articles and determine, and give, so that we knew that if in the last 5 years that the articles, I don't even have a good sense as to what's done and what's not done on what we've approved. So those are the kind of things that kind of go back to goals and objectives of what the subcommittee should be. And maybe we do need to take it back and look at as a group, put some more definition around and help this subcommittee out to give them an understanding of really what does success look like. And maybe we didn't do that, and I kind of thought when we originally created it, we were kind of providing, giving the subcommittee the leeway in order to map that all out. And it just feels like there's just not been any real momentum of progress.
Mr. Costello, and then I'll allow him to answer with Mr. Hutchinson.
If that's the wish of the committee, that's a fine idea, because you'd have distributed between 18 different people. That's fine. I don't think, I actually lost my train of thought, but I think that would be a good idea, yes, if you had this committee take it back under this umbrella. You want to take 2 articles, 3 articles, whatever we decide, and go with it. To answer your first question, I think although it has been difficult to put together a process that we can follow with each and every article, because they differ a little bit, I think it's paying dividends, because the fact of the matter is you have the town manager that invited himself to our very next meeting because he wants to make sure that we're getting the latest and best information. So it is working. What we have to do, and to your point, we have to find a way to catalog all of the information for all the different articles that are easy for everyone at their fingertips to pull up and find out where each and every article is. And to your point, we haven't perfected that as of yet. We've gone around and we've done this investigative reporting, for lack of a better word, and we've found out different stages of where some of these articles are. But is there a central location that you can go to today and find out the latest information? No. When now bring in the administrative assistant in, that should help with that. She's been a big help on the clerical side of it, even to the point of minutes. When we first started, one of our first members was a clerk. Unfortunately, had a conflict with another committee, didn't come to many meetings, so we were relying on the Zoom for the minutes. But that's being worked on now. We talked about that as a agenda item at our last meeting. It's critical to catch up. We have all of the minutes, but they're in electronic form, but they have to show up on the website so people can find them. That was our goal. We want townspeople, we want town meeting members to be able to look at one central location and find out where these articles, once they're passed, where they end up and how they progress. So it's good criticism. I have no problem with it. If you want to make that a chore of this committee, why not? I mean, that's a great idea.
Just so we're, if I could, just one.
Ms. Holmes with a follow-up, and then Mr. Hutchinson, and then I saw your hand, Mr. Weber. Yep.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I'm not criticizing. I think that you need some help. I think that the group needs some help. If it's concerning if there's been, almost 2 years and we don't have any meeting minutes. So, we can't say with clarity, like if we were to take it on, do you have some kind of a log that says the articles that you have looked at versus you haven't? Where would we start if this committee decided to take it back on? How would I know, oh, they already looked at this and this is what they determined? Is there any kind of tracker that you're using?
Yeah, there is a tracker that was first brought forward in our first 6 months of our existence. It was a spreadsheet. The gentleman that was sort of maintaining that spreadsheet has dropped out of town meeting. Mr. Cohan, who's a member of the committee, has put together a Google Doc that he's really confident will catch on. One of our first meetings.
Just to touch on this, because I don't want you to lose this though, but
Yeah.
You'll need to get Google Docs, or we went through this with the town meeting handbook.
Yeah.
That you have to use a different form.
No, I understand. You and I talked about this briefly on the way out, and the problem with it is Mr. Cohen has put together a lot of work to put together this document. Now, maybe it's not going to be usable, but the bones are there that we might be able to. Early on, when we met with the town manager, we had hopes, and we talked about getting the town IT department involved. And shortly after that meeting, it was told to us that the town was going to put together their own plan. And they were sort of going to take care of it themselves through the finance department. and the IT, and we didn't get the support maybe we were initially promised. But we've still done our work. The members of the committee have done the work. We have done a presentation to sort of cut our teeth, but we need to do more of it. But it's really in the quantity of people, because there's a host of content that should be looked at.
I would like to join the Legislative Oversight Committee, and then maybe I can help put some order around it if that's... if
April
you're amenable.
23rd via Zoom.
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
Oh.
But I'm not officially joining the committee. I just want to, I'm just
Yeah,
out of morbid
I'd like to
curiosity.
try to help put some order around it, having done this before.
No,
but-
great, we look forward to it, that'd be terrific.
Mr. Hutchinson and then Mr. Weber, please.
Thank you. So it would help me if you had a spreadsheet that listed all of the articles that have been suggested or that you're working on, and that has columns for status, degree of difficulty maybe. There are lots of ways to design a tool that would be used by the chair, I think. And if you have Kristen, you are in luck because she's great. She understands how to use spreadsheets, how to use Excel variables, and could probably help design such a tool. So there's that, and what that would help me, just as a town meeting member and as a COPC member, is I'd know the kinds of things you guys are looking at, because I don't have a good overview of that right this second. And you know, more ideas might spring to mind, or suggestions to throw things out. Who knows? But so there's that. And I'd also comment that I would not want the town manager taking it over. I mean, this is our job. One of our jobs here is oversight, oversight for the legislative branch, and we should be doing that. And so I'd like to. I mean, I'm happy to take all Derek's comments for sure. Best information, obviously, is best information. But you know, those are my suggestions. I think your committee is terribly important, and that I don't think we ought to bring it back to the group. I think we need a group that is able to focus on it, and just the tools and the help that you need. I mean, you should just raise your hand and scream. I mean, that's anyway. Thanks.
No, those are good points, and that was sort of my point, is not that we're hoping for the town manager to come in and fill in all the blanks for us, because we're able to do it ourselves, we're able to talk to people, but my point was that it has the interest, it has the, you know, the town manager sees the value in making sure we get the information, the most current information that we can pass along to both the town meeting members and the residents. So once we figure out a way to streamline it, I think we're going to have the benefit of both that support from town administration and our own ability to track down some of these answers. But you're right. Our hope is not to have it taken over by the town. That would simply be rehashing the same sort of information that we hear all the time anyway. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
And if we had the spreadsheet and it was on town website, I can remind my caucus members every month to go look. This is what Alan and the gang are looking at, and you know, it becomes a tool for lots of folks to then pitch in using that tool.
Yep. And the flip side is it lets them, once they're familiar with it, alert us to something that they might be interested in seeing us get to the bottom of. So it works both ways. So I think once it's put together, it's going to work. It should work as well as it can. And this group, the Legislative Oversight Committee, should be able to do the work and then pass the information on to this group to do what they will with the information. That would be the hope. Thank you.
Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale Weber, Precinct 3. I was not a supporter of this committee from the get-go. Kudos to Alan for giving this his solid effort. My issue is that each town meeting member, not just the committee of precinct chairs, but each town meeting member has a right and responsibility and a duty to keep an eye on this themselves through the information we get every year under Burke's Law. 10 pages of appropriations that were made and the money that has been spent to date is right there in front of you. At this last town meeting, Mr. Williams' wife, Jerry Williams, did a great job doing her homework and extracting out of there some money that she thought wasn't being utilized, and she'd like to make a motion to reallocate that funding to an issue that she wanted, and town meeting supported that to a degree. I think they shot down one of them, but they approved the others. Before her, Everett Malaguti used to do that. We all should do that. When I saw that this committee got its initiation with 18 members, or 17 members, one short of what we constitute here, it just shifts, it just shows me that it's a duplication of effort. The effort is already there, we just weren't taking it. And if we are hearing from our constituents or our fellow COPC members that we need to do a better job at tracking articles and the appropriation of money, then we can do that through Burke's Law. But again, I think this is a monumental effort that was undertaken. If some people are frustrated that it's taken 2 years to hear something, then it's up to us as individual members to come in here at some point with an initiative and say, hey, let's talk, I'd like to talk about this article. But again, it hasn't been a over preponderance of people that want to do this. We've had a couple town meetings that have done it. Town meeting members, I'm sorry, that have done this, and kudos to them. Others can do the same work that they did, and I just think that I've heard so much from the executive board of our community that say, we've got 68 committees in town, do we need another one? And like I say, it's up to those committees to do their due diligence once they're formed, but sometimes the task is monumental and people have full plates. So I have no problem with this committee taking another set of eyes on it, but again, we all have full agendas too. So, but it is our duty, it is our responsibility to keep an eye on the appropriations that the taxpayers have authorized and where it's being spent and what the balance is left and why the project might be being held up. But keep in mind, there's a strategy there. When you appropriate money at town meetings, sometimes it's a design, build, and operate. You have to go through permitting, design, construction. It takes a while to complete a project. So that's my comments. Thank you for your effort, Mr. Costello. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Perkins, I see your hand raised. If you want to unmute.
I'm doing that, thank you. So I feel really privileged because I'm only a few years, a few cycles in the town meeting member position, but I did start on this committee last year and I had to drop off at the beginning of last summer. And I just want to share that my experience on the committee is everything that Alan said. We're going to create a spreadsheet and we're going to track these things, but then who has access to it? And what is the mode that needs to be posted on the website? And how do we prevent people from going in when they shouldn't be going in? Who is responsible for making the post? There's a lot of different questions. It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle to put together. And before I left the committee, for reasons that I had to, we were sort of underway for working that progress out. But for the time that I sat on this committee, we took through every representative that was on the committee, town meeting members, concerns that people in those districts had about articles or situations that to their minds were not playing out in the time frame that ought to. And we as committee members investigated those things and then reported back to the committee How and whether they got recorded that was really a difficult thing, and I'm sure it's still a difficult thing if we don't have that, that vehicle on the website where those things are tracked yet. But I just want to reiterate what Al said. The town manager understands that people are looking out for the things that need to be done, and that's really the value of this committee. And I think that what I saw when I was there is that when we make inquiry, people respond. We get information. Most of it is really good information that things are happening as the way they should be. The things that should stand out are the things that are not happening the way that they should be. And those are the things that should be reported and then acted upon back with the COPC, a larger voice involved. So I don't really have a judgment about whether or not the legislative committee, oversight committee goes back to the COPC or whether it stands alone. I do know that as soon as I'm able, I'm going to rejoin that committee. And I think it does good work, and I actually do think it's having a serious effect, because sometimes it's just knowing that eyes are watching that makes things happen. And the value of that cannot be, I think, diminished by the fact that there isn't a spreadsheet out there. So I just wanted to add that and share that my experience was a productive one, and it was a rewarding experience, because we were looking at things that people were concerned about. And when we found that there was no, like, okay, that's being done, good, check that off. I do wish you had the vehicle to be able to see that readily and easily, but there are definitely, there were definitely issues about, like, what system are we using? The city has changed systems. And so it's been really hard to, I think, put all of that in sync. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other further comments here in the room? Ms. Alman?
I just want to say that the first year, I think, was very productive, and we had a report at the end of the year. And this last year, we just had problems with scheduling. And like the last meeting was canceled, and I wasn't really sure why. And I was told because the town manager couldn't make it, but I didn't know why we had to cancel because he couldn't make it. I just, it's, things have been muddled, I guess.
Okay, I'd like, if, I know you're a member of the committee. I think that can be a discussion point within your meeting next week.
All right.
That sounds like a committee, whoever's on that committee discussion point. Any further comments, questions? Not seeing anything. Mr. Costello, I'll see you next week. And then
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
All right. All right, Mr. LaFrari, your turn. Town meeting handbook update.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick update on the town meeting handbook committee and revision. The last committee meeting we had was on April 8th, which was a week ago Tuesday. And the handbook is now with the town council for review. And we hope to have it for COPC to review by the next meeting. And that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. LaFrari, and
You're welcome.
thank you. Look forward to seeing whatever the final product is in our hands soon. Appreciate it and your committee's work on that. I know there were some changing hands at one point throughout the committee. So I know, Catherine, you're on that. Mr. O'Brien's on that. Sue Wentworth, a town meeting member, is on that. Kevin Lynch was on that at one point.
And so was Bill Arianti.
Bill Arianti was on it as well. But great job getting it, hopefully, that much closer to the finish line. Thank you. Any questions, comments? No? Mr. Hutchinson, master plan update.
Thanks. I'd like to thank Carmen for taking that job on it. So I think it's a pretty hard job. Thanks for doing that work. For the master plan, the consultants are working on elements of a preliminary draft, and they, this last meeting, they went through templates for looking for how they want to have the committee and the consultants look at first open space and then also at commercial development space in town. So we discussed the choices across town for those templates, and one was for open space, they chose the Sorrento land, and then for the commercial development, they chose Cranberry Cove. But basically, they're going to study these sites and then come back with the basics for an initial draft for inspection by our committee. So we'll actually get homework pretty soon as a committee, and I'll have more to report. But they'll provide these initial drafts, and we'll have a discussion by the committee. The results of that conversation will become the basis for the consultants to begin work on a final draft for the comprehensive plan. So if the comprehensive plan was this long, we're kind of like right around in here. So that's as much as I can tell you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Again, glad to see progress moving forward on the master plan. Any questions, comments? No. All right, we're going to go to everybody's favorite two words, public comment. Not seeing any within the room or online. Any old business? I'm going to bring up it's recent old business. I did look back at my notes regarding the DVC and bringing a spouse. Absolutely allowed. They pay for it. I'm going to say it's somewhere between the airfare is somewhere between like about $3,200 and a little bit higher than that. There's a new thing when you travel overseas, a fuel charge that fluctuates with the market, and that doesn't get set until like 2 days before the flight. And then it's also, just so everybody knows, you're flying economy. So there you go. Any other old business? Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Old business during the, and it's only old for about an hour and a half now, the issue that Mr. Costello brought up about the cost of OTI. I reached out to the finance director during trials and tribulations here, and she indicates approximately $11,000 is what we paid to OTI for this past town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. See, we're all doing our homework in between. I like it. There we go. Any other old business? Not seeing any. Any new business?
Yes,
I have,
Mr.
okay,
Chairman.
I've got a lot of hands that just went up there at once. So I know Mr. Williams reached out to me earlier, so I'm going to go with Mr. Williams, Mr. Weber. I'm trying to go with how it came out of my periphery. And then, was it Ms. Holmes? It was. Okay. Was there anybody else? Or we'll get to it. We'll go through these three first. Mr. Williams.
I wanted to have a bit of a discussion on the Atlantic Golf Course. It's important not only for Cedarville, but also for the rest of the community because of the tax implications of it. The owners of the Atlantic Golf Course have filed a 61B. They filed another second document on that. It's not an agreement of purchase, according to people that I've talked to, because an agreement of purchase is required by state law. But there's a disclosure in there that takes it out of that realm. What we would like is for the solicitor who gave a verbal approval of the agreement of purchase. He said that it's an agreement of purchase. It's really probably not, or possibly not, an agreement of purchase. We would like a a written approval from that solicitor. We'd like it in writing. The use has changed also from 24 homes on a driving range to 400 homes. So that 400 some homes, yeah, 40B type homes, but it's not filed as such. There are problems for not just the residents of traffic and noise, and there's problems for Plymouth if this goes through. There's 200 children that would probably cost about $22 million to educate. And there's also the idea that the 22 million is, or 2.2 million, I'm sorry, 2.2 million. The cost is been stated as 20 million, and this 20 million would give a less than 10-year return, which is probably pretty good. So this is going to be a very, very influential development. I have Bill Cohan here who can add something to that if he chooses. But what I would like is to have the statement of the solicitor in writing that this is an agreement of sale, because we are not sure that that's actually true, because at any time the seller can walk away from this.
Okay.
In Article 24 of one of the documents, it specifically states that. And normally, I understand it from the realtors that I know, that if that is in there, it's really not an agreement of sale. So I would like permission to ask Matt to ask the solicitor, to ask the town manager to get something in writing from the solicitor. We need that to move forward here. This is just too tricky, too icky, and too sticky. So I'm not happy about it.
More than happy to ask on the behalf of anyone within the COPC and within town meeting for that matter, as I have in the past on other items. I'm more than happy to ask any questions of the town manager and facilitate a question to the town council. We have, other than common courtesy, we have no real authority to push an answer out of either of those. But I think we have a good relationship with them where we may get something back. I do know, to your point, this is something that everybody is looking at. It was a select board town manager update, not this past Tuesday, but the Tuesday before. They're also within a window of, they discussed, and you'll have to forgive me that I can't be more versed on it. I didn't go back to watch the meeting, and I was pulled out while the town manager, out of the select board meeting while the town manager was speaking. But I know that they're within a time frame window in which they need to act. And I also know that Ms. Holmes wanted to speak to this and has some, she's indicating to me she may have some new information. So Mr. Weber, I'm just going to ask, I know I had you coming up next, since it kind of dovetails, would you, well, unless you, if she has if Ms. Holmes has new information that can help answer Mr. Williams, then maybe, okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Weber, I appreciate that.
Thank you. So my topic, my new business topic was the same thing. So why am I echoing? So, okay, so just to put some clarity around it. So the Atlantic Golf Course has put forward, for those of you that don't know, they have an offer on the table for $20 million to buy Atlantic Golf Course. They are under Chapter 61B, I believe it is, which is recreational restriction. So they get tax, they get alleviation of some taxes in order to keep that a recreational space. So the town manager did say that, and the select board members, they are all actively working on this. I know David Gould is also, I believe, engaged. We also have the land and, I can never remember their acronym, LUAC, that's actively investigating what the opportunities are to purchase the land or what the impact would be on the community. So Mr. Williams is right when he says that, Atlantic Golf Course, there was initial speculation that they are going to be putting in potentially 400 homes. There's been talk, lots of rumors in town that it could potentially be 40B. So we need to try to stick to the facts and not, there's talk that there's sand mining, but we only know what we know, and we need to go through the due diligence. So what I'm hearing is that there is potentially activity around getting an estimate of the land so that we can determine what we could, if we were willing to move forward with an offer, that we would be able to purchase it for. But we need that evaluation done. And there's a lot of meetings that are happening that have been scheduled. So I think what we need to do is bring the meetings to out to the community so that people can raise their voice, they can hear from the people that are actually doing this work, and so that we can speak to fact. So Precinct 9 is actually having a caucus on this. The date is going to be probably next week. I'm trying to work with my precinct to schedule that. It's going to be dedicated to this topic completely. We're extending the invitation to the community around, so all Precinct 12, 8, 17, 9, obviously, and a couple of other precincts have said that they were interested in it. So there's also Cedarville Steering Committee that is going to be reserving a meeting for this, and that, I think, is May 8th. I'll get the dates, I'll send it out to everybody so that you have them, but there's going to be lots of opportunities where residents and town meeting members can go before the people that are investigating this and actually hear the status of what they're doing. I think that I strongly suggest that you all attend those sessions. And then, lastly, I think that it's important to note that if we did decide to move forward with this, and maybe we don't know, potentially private funding people are looking into, what could we do to alleviate the $20 million if that is, in fact, a legitimate offer? And that is also being investigated to determine that. There's lots of legal reviews that are happening. So we need to give it some time to give them the opportunity to do their due diligence, but at the same time, we need to be asking the questions, and we need to be making sure that residents are aware of this, because whether they sell the land to this developer and they build the 400 homes, or whether we buy it, there's a real concern around taxes. It's going to increase our taxes no matter what we do, because if you've been out to Atlantic Golf Course, the roads and the infrastructure, as Mr. Williams said, it's not designed to support any kind of volume, and the residents that are out there today are really struggling with the infrastructure that's there today. And plus, we know, and I've said this many times, our schools, especially in South Plymouth, are in the place where they're over capacity and they need to be rebuilt. So there's a lot of infrastructure that would have to be put in place in order to support this. I will continue to share information as it's been made to me. I'll send out those invites so you can attend those meetings. There's also a Facebook page that's been set up called South Plymouth United that you can join, and those information will be being posted there by residents and also town meeting members, and whatever information that we're getting, we'll be posting it there as well. Thank you.
Catherine, if you'd like to send those dates to Kristen when you have them, she could then send them out to COPC and town meeting members. And to your point, Mr. Williams, if you do have questions that you'd like me to get clarified, if you want to just email them to me in your language, I can share those.
I will do that, thanks, yeah. The other thing about that property is that it is a venue onto the 1,600 acres. It's one of the few ways that we could get on that fairly easily, so it would be to the town's advantage to have that in its possession.
Yeah. Mr. Weber, and then Ms. Perkins online.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to pass on some sad news. is that we lost one of our long-serving town meeting members, town activist and town character in Randy Parker recently. And I figured I would ask the chair to ask us to recognize Randy in a moment of silence.
I absolutely agree with that. Mr. Parker, we all can remember seeing him at town meeting, and he was wonderful. I think you said it best with character. He was definitely full of character and brought life to town meeting at times. So if we could all have a moment of silence, please. Thank you, and thank you, Randy, for all your years of service to this community, and our thoughts and hearts go out to Randy's family at this time. Any further, Ms. Perkins?
So now I'm emotional because I met Randy at our caucus meeting on our first day, and I'm very privileged to work with Ida, who sits on Precinct 7 as a town meeting member. And I almost don't even want to say what I was going to say because that moment is just way more important than this. But I heard you say that the trip to Japan was a spouse-included situation. Is that correct?
The question was raised earlier, if someone wanted to volunteer to go as the COPC person, could they bring a spouse? And I went back through my notes, and yes, you could bring a spouse. That is at the cost of, the spouse, or however you want to divide up your finances. And I can tell you that it's roughly, not a final number, but $3,200. I don't see the price going down. And that's flying economy.
Okay. Then that happens to be the week of my anniversary, and the only reason I would have said no to doing that. I can do that and would be very interested in doing that and could make it an anniversary present for him.
Shoot me an email with your name. I'll add you to the now growing list from 0 to, I think we're up to 3 now, so.
Do we have 3? Okay.
Now we're going to have a tournament.
so-
Okay.
Here's the question about that.
So everyone
I'm the vice
prepare
chair.
for a Zoom meeting. Mr. Costello.
Just one quick thing to finish up on. Earlier this week, on the town manager's report, there was a notification that they sold, or at least it's under agreement, the North Plymouth Fire Station. The price tag, maybe someone will correct me, was $75,000, which I thought was relatively cheap. I don't know if anyone on this committee, or if you could find out, what is the procedure? Where is that advertised, or the bid process taken up? I know the town manager has the ability to sell properties, but it's $75,000. Anybody could have gotten that poll.
$75,000 and all the asbestos you could imagine, so.
Well, that's what they say.
I
But,
can only imagine what the cost, I see Mr. Weber shaking his head, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to unload the building. So,
No, and that
you
could
probably
very
could have got
well
it
be.
for $1, Alan, if you really wanted it.
Well, it's,
But I can find out the process as to how that went down. Is that what you're looking for? Unless Mr.
maybe
Weber
not that
looks like he has-
specifically, but how does that process overall go down?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Weber.
Yeah, I'll just say, this was a procurement process through the procurement office, Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B. So you go on their website, and plus it's advertised on the website of new things going on. Check out the website. You can actually pull up the bids, the solicitation, the interest that people put in, and the award. So the town manager went through that process through procurement, and there were 2 bids, and one was low, one was high. The high bid was 75. And as the chairman said, you can have all the asbestos and PFAS asbestos on the inside, the PFAS on the outside that you want for $75K.
Very good. If that's the procedure, that I'll look up.
Yeah, you look up
Thanks a million.
procurement on the town departments. Just go to departments, look up procurement, and everything's there.
Perfect, thank you.
And to add on to that, before I get to Mr. Begley's, to Mr. Weber's, excuse me, it's getting late, Mr. Weber's point, the town website is getting a lot of new features added to it, including open committee seats, and you can see them right there and apply right there. It's fantastic. Mr. Begley.
Yeah, just a quick thing to share. There's a fun community event coming up in about a week or so. On Saturday, April 26th from 10 to 3 is the Herring Run Festival down at Plymouth Gristmill and along the brook in Jenny Pond. Free event. Residents can also visit the mill for free that day. But also lots of community partners taking part and sharing talking about the research around the herring. They are back. Reports are in that the first fish are back up the fish ladder, heading up to Billington Sea. There'll be food, drinks, music, a beer garden from Indie Firm. A lot happening for our community, a free community event on April 26th. Oh, and thanks to the Visitor Services Board, Town Promotions Fund, and the Department of Energy and Environment for helping out with that.
And the Herring Ponds Watershed Association is doing their now famous obstacle course for herring for the kids, where they get to slide back down to the ocean on a slippery, slidey slide. We had about 150 last year do that. So bring your kids, bring your grandkids.
Mr. Delafield.
Yeah, just a quick public announcement again is that the town, at their last meeting, approved the town as a city of peace. I think this offers all of us, even here, to consider ways that we can support that resolution to make this a city of peace. It's an international organization towards peace the world over.
All right, well, just because it's tradition, Mr. Brewster's not here, but do I have a motion to adjourn? For Mr. Begley, seconded by Mr. LaFrere. Thank you all. Good night. Staring at me, smiling the entire time. Still photo. Yeah.